Well, so do we only know what's the true faith until when the Pope says, "Oh, the Robert Council's false," or could we identify the Robert Council's false prior to it? Well, I can prove this to you easily because do you think that a Christian in the year 300 had access to what the true faith was if he didn't live in Rome?
Yeah, 100%.
Okay, well, how would a Christian in 300 in say Ephesus know what the true faith was?
Well, I don't know if I would go so far to say he would completely understand 100% of the nuance of his faith, but would he have...
No, just knowing the true faith, right? So let's say I walk into Ephesus, it's the year 300. There's a bunch of different sects, like Irenaeus lists all the different Gnostics. Everybody's claiming to be the one true followers of Jesus. There is the Orthodox Catholic Church, and then there's other groups and splits and whatever's out there. How do I, as a year 300 person, come to know what the true faith is? Because I don't know what's going on in Rome. It's the ancient world. I can't send scroll emails to Rome to get Pope whoever to answer me really quick to tell me what the truth is. There's no ecumenical council yet, right? We've had, 200 plus years of Christianity, no ecumenical council. How do I know what the true faith is? If I'm a Vatican I papist, I can't know. I don't know. I have to, literally everybody have to go to Rome or write letters to Rome to know what the true faith was. You see how silly this position leads? What it leads to?
I mean, yeah, I get what you're getting at. I mean, back then, I think how you would know if you were in a true church or not, like Irenaeus or Ignatius imply, would be, if your church is connected to a bishop that has apostolic succession.
Okay, but there's plenty of sects and there's plenty of heretics and schismatics like the Novatianists at that time that had apostolic succession.
Right, but that's exactly why we begin to have councils. I mean, dogmas only seem to rise when there's dispute, when there's confusion, right?
Okay, but you said earlier that knowing related to ecumenical councils. But now in the year 300, knowing the faith doesn't relate to an ecumenical council.
Well, correct, because the church is organic, right? And like I just said, dogmas rise with disputation. Obviously, Justin Martyr.
So ecumenical council. So knowing the faith is not then tied to having an ecumenical council.
Well, it's all about context. It's about the life of the church. The church isn't some like.
How does that answer How does that answer the objection?
Restate the objection real quick, if you wouldn't mind.
So this contradicts what you said a minute ago, that ecumenical councils tell us and give us knowledge of the faith. You said infallibly knowing. I forget what phrase you used, something like that. So which is it? Is it that the councils give us the certitude and knowledge of the faith, or they don't?
For sure they do. Yeah.
Okay, so how would I know in the year 300 what the true faith was? There's no council. I mean, there's local councils.
We had the Council of Jerusalem. I mean, the Book of Acts. So again, I would say like here in
yeah, but that's in Scripture. But you're a Roman Catholic, and you're talking about so now you're a Protestant in the year 300. I go to Scripture to figure out what the true councils are.
Well, I think it would be a Protestant response to say we knew Florence was wrong because all the laymen disagreed. So
did I say that? I said the rest of the Orthodox world, including the rest of the bishops in the Orthodox world. I didn't say all the laymen disagree.
Sorry, that's what I heard. I heard the Orthodox people disagree, and that's why. And with
Florence, the Orthodox people is made up of bishops and laity. So you
right, but the highest degrees of the bishoprics of the Orthodox world, along with
you don't even understand. There's not so Mark of Ephesus, right, did not go along with it, and there's no like. It's not like you're not listening. So you don't understand our position. The bishops are all equal. They have canonical privileges. There's no super bishops in the Orthodox Church.
Okay, so that means there's no higher authority.
Correct.
Within every bishop is the same, and that's
correct.
Right. So where does the buck stop with authority? I mean, that seems to be a
You understand that, but that's not a problem. That's a problem everybody has. That's my point. And I illustrated this with how do I know the true faith in the year 300?
Is that a problem everybody has?
How do I know the true faith in the year 300? Can you answer this or not?
I feel like I have.
What was the answer? I didn't hear an answer. I heard a bunch of talking around it. What's the answer?
All right, let me answer. Let me answer, and I'll tell you when I've answered, and then please respond.
Well, isn't this going to be the answer? Why would you have to tell me when you answered?
I just want to get the full thought out there. And I'm not as given to debate or as gifted as debate with you. So it takes me a little longer to get my articulation across. Okay. So I guess my answer to that would be is fundamentally I see the church as something organic, as something alive.
Well, I agree with that. I agree with that.
Amazing. A very simple example, and I'll come around to the full point here. Very simple example, Justin Martyr, obviously saint, obviously knew the true faith. Was he completely, as perfectly nuanced as we would like to see in the year 2024 when it comes to Christology and Trinitarian theology? No, right? But as the years went by, we had disputations about the Trinity. Therefore, ergo, what ended up happening is we had a council to begin to solve these things. And that's when you saw this pattern happen.
But I agree with that pattern, totally. Yeah. But that doesn't. How does that answer the question of the year 300 knowing what the true faith is?
Well, simply because the true faith continuously extrapolates and becomes clear as disputation arises.
So we don't know the Trinity until people disagree with it. That's a terrible argument.
I wouldn't say the average layman would have as nuanced and as clear of an understanding of the theology pre-Cappadocian fathers or anything like that. Yeah, absolutely not. But did they not have a saving faith that they weren't?
Yeah, but none of this addresses the objection that knowing and asking what the Christian faith is in the year 300 without access to Rome and without any ecumenical councils disproves your later argument that we need the papacy to know the faith.
Well, I feel like that would be getting into another conversation.
No, it's not. It's a perfect way to illustrate the fallacy that you're relying on. Let me give you another example of this same position. At the time of Constantinople I, you mentioned the Cappadocians, and Constantinople I is the Second Ecumenical Council, which gives the church the doctrine of the Trinity. At the time of the council being held and at its close, St. Meletius of Antioch was outside of communion with Rome. So he died in schism. The council of the Trinity was had outside of communion with Rome. And yet, the council was still true. It correctly taught the doctrine of the Trinity that the church accepted. And a couple hundred years later, Rome retroactively accepts that council. So, how does your position reconcile with that fact?
Well, simply because, Rome still ended up accepting that. Obviously.
Okay, did the council... You don't even understand the objection. Did the council correctly teach the Trinity outside of Rome?
Yes, 100%.
Okay, and your church accepts St. Meletius as a saint, even though he died out of communion with Rome.
Correct. Yep.
Yeah, which is inconsistent because Unum Sanctum and Florence Cantate Domino, which you just referenced, Florence says that anyone who dies outside of communion with the Roman bishop is damned. So heretics and schismatics do a council that correctly teaches the doctrine of the Trinity. And so, therefore, that alone, if you admit that it correctly, that proves that we don't need the papacy to know the true doctrine of the Trinity.
Well, the thing is that we still do. Does the
did you not hear what I just said? You don't understand.
No. I totally.
Can you restate to me what the argument is before you move on?
Sure. Okay. The argument is, and I'll put it very simply. You have these councils that correctly defined theology, such as the Trinity, such as the St. Meletius, who in fact was in excommunication from Rome and died so. Yet, despite Rome not acknowledging said council or said saint during the lifetime of these events, they accepted them retroactively.
Did the council correctly teach about the Trinity?
Correct, yes.
And that was had outside of Rome, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, do we need Rome to know true theology?
Yes.
Okay, you just contradicted yourself because you just admitted that they were outside of communion with Rome. They correctly taught and knew the Trinity. And now you're saying that no. So that's a contradiction.
But here's the difference in the perspective, Jed. And feel free to critique this as well if you find this erroneous. Yes, did the human who occupied the office of the papacy and the magisterium itself not recognize the truth as it was right under their noses right then and there? Yes, for sure.
No, no, no.
But
That has nothing to do. It's not about the Pope. It's about the people at Constantinople I. Did they know and recognize the true faith and the true doctrine of the Trinity outside of anything to do with the Bishop of Rome? Have you read Basil's letters, how he bitches about Rome being useless and worthless at that time? So, I'm
No,
serious.
What letter is this?
I have a whole lecture on all of Basil's letters, and I give the lecture. I give the letter in that lecture. I can pull it out if you really want me to. But the point is that
I just love to know what it is to research it if you can.
I will give it to you, yes, since you asked. But the point is that
Thank you.
the point is that the people at the council and the Cappadocians and Meletios correctly knew and stated and defined with nothing to do with Rome. That proves that we don't need the Bishop of Rome to know the true faith. And that disproves all of what you're arguing.
And Rome acknowledges that by retroactive. Basically, what Jay's argument is, Rome retrospectively acknowledges you don't need Rome by accepting Constantinople I. Does that make sense?
Exactly.